How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Theme Park Shark Podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Sparage, and today I am joined, of course, with Alicia Stella. It's been a while, so it's good to have you back.
It's good to be back.
We are doing our joint podcast segment, Shark Stop. It's a big Shark Stop because it seems like a day that we've been waiting for quite some time. We officially got an opening date for Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Japan. We got some official imaging released from the park. And it was just a really big day, especially after a whole year of what seemed like a kind of slow, really rough year as far as getting information for new theme park attractions. So it's been really nice to kind of almost end the year on a bang here and know that we are actually now only a few months away from Super Nintendo World.
Yeah, it's like they've given out little drips of information, and even not that long ago, they said like it's going to open early 2021, but they didn't release any information. And like every time they do these little info dumps, I'm always like, please show us the inside of something. Please show us the inside of something. And they finally showed us the inside of something.
They showed us the inside of something in a big way. We got Q shots. We got shots from inside the land. We got official B-roll. We got an insane amount of details that I think you and I are totally going to geek over for probably the entirety of this podcast. But first things first, I just want to go over the opening dates really quick. We have an official opening date of February 4th, 2021 in Japan. Hollywood, still not officially announced, but I'm leaning towards late 21, early 22. You can tell me your thoughts.
I'm telling myself maybe mid 22 so I don't get my hopes up, like summer 22, just because they like to do things in the summer and they still have Secret Life of Pets and the finished Jurassic World to, promote once the park does open. So
I'm trying to get a little aggressive on that. So I do agree with Alicia also. I think that is the probably most likely time frame, but I'm kind of hoping we might hit the spring or even late next year, but it's going to be very hard. They'll have to really push, and I just don't know if that's where they're at with that right now. And Epic Universe, what's going on there?
Well, we're still technically in a pause, but behind the scenes, I hear that a lot of people involved in it are positive. Like they want to remain positive. They want to believe that this is still happening. But one thing to consider is that when they were when they were fabricating a lot of the set pieces for the land, Super Nintendo World, and for Mario Kart, they actually did it in triple. Like they made it for Japan, they made it for Hollywood, and they made it for Orlando. So somewhere sitting in a warehouse in Orlando are literally hundreds of blocks, question mark blocks and coin blocks and brick blocks, POW bricks. They're just sitting somewhere waiting to be installed. So whether or not Epic Universe it opens like in the next few years, like they want to, or if it gets postponed and they move Super Nintendo World to Kids Zone, I really feel like we're going to get in Orlando no matter what, because they've already kind of built it.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. I actually didn't know they went ahead and made it all in 3 like that. But at the end of the day, I guess it looks like right now in Orlando, if anything, regardless of where it goes, it's probably going to be sitting, I guess, wherever it's located right now for a little bit of time, unfortunately.
Yes,
but
yeah.
Hopefully it'll be pulled out soon enough. It'll be nice to see it at all 3 parks, at least the ones we just mentioned. I want to jump immediately into Mario Kart right now because we finally saw some inside shots of Mario Kart. And the first thing that I'm going to bring up to you is the grand staircase and that Bowser statue that was at the end of the entry. What was your immediate take when you finally saw that shot?
If you go back and watch my Mario Kart rumor video from a while ago, I think I used some shot of like a grand staircase in Bowser's castle. And I said like visual approximation. Like I was trying to say this is kind of what I think it's going to look like. But I didn't know that the stanchion, like I knew they were making a giant Bowser, but I was like, maybe it's for the ride. But that statue is impressive at the top of the stairs. And like, you can just imagine walking through the stanchions in the entrance and like going to the regular line, the express line, maybe single rider line. I don't know. And just walking up the stairs. And the first thing you see is this 10-foot statue of Bowser. It's pretty cool.
It's definitely menacing. Your first look once you walk inside is this massive Bowser. So I think it kind of sets the mood and gets things going. And then I don't know if you turn a corner or if you're just continuing down the queue, because I'm sure there's shots they left out as far as the
they actually left out a lot before the next shot. And you know what's also interesting is that the land itself starts on a second level, and then when you enter into the Bowser's castle, it looks like you're going up this staircase. So that's like a third level worth of space, which just tells me that the bottom level where the ride is, Mario Kart, is taller than I'm thinking it is. Like that's a much taller ride space than just a normal like single floor. So that's pretty cool in and of itself. They showed us the trophy room, which is something I think we've talked about on the show before. That's toward the end of the queue as far as I've heard. So there's still a lot of the Bowser like castle areas, like a portrait gallery and a courtyard area and a library. And then we get to the trophy room to kind of get us psyched up and excited for the race we're about to start.
What did you think of the trophy room? Did it do justice to seeing, I guess, physically manifested Mario Kart trophies, or like, just what was your overall thought process on the presentation, how they decided to show off these
I've been playing the Mario Kart game since the first one, which was Super Nintendo. So I'm used to the very cartoony feel. I feel like they've done such an amazing job of translating a cartoon world into the real life so that it still feels fantastical, but also tangible. Like I didn't expect it to, like essentially it's a high res world. Like it's really high res. I think the coolest bit of news is that in the trophy room, we can see all the different cup trophies from the races from the actual game. But then the last one is the Universal Cup, which is for the ride itself. So it's a special cup of races that you can only do if you're in the theme park.
Can we talk about that? Because there's a big Universal globe right there. And then also at the load station, kind of up on the brickwork, there's another Universal logo there.
Above the tracks, above the like the exit to the ride, you can see there's another Universal Cup logo, and it's so cool.
I'm so used to when I see a dedicated world at Universal. Obviously, I immediately think Potter, right? And I couldn't imagine seeing anything Universal branded inside a Potter world. Were you surprised to see Universal branding inside of a Nintendo themed world?
I am, but then as soon as I see it, I'm like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Shigeru Miyamoto is sitting there going like, we need to incorporate this and make it like an expansion of the games, but we're in the theme park, and it's like, it's so brilliant.
Watch like a downloadable content on the next Mario Kart. It's going to be going through the Universal map.
I mean, it would be amazing if like they did go both ways and they started incorporating the theme park stuff into the console. Like if you finish all the courses or there's downloadable content, like that would be so great.
That'd be really cool. And hopefully it happens. I mean, it seems like they are intertwining in a sense. Like just the fact that they let them do this with Universal branding and actually create what seems to be a Universal Cup. That's pretty darn cool. So I think that's a really nice meshing of the brands here.
The only other thing I can think of that's like that is like, I guess Mission Breakout mentions that they're in Disneyland. But like Jurassic Park The Ride, when the original Q video, Hammond's talking about like how they brought Jurassic Park to Universal Studios. Like they're just admitting it that like, we're at Universal Studios, but we brought the dinosaurs to you. And it's like the mixing of worlds in such a way. Like it's not something you see too often.
They do that a little bit on the Incredicoaster as well in the queue.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's called synergy, darling.
Exactly. So it happens. It's just, it's almost a little jarring when it happens, because I think we're so used to the experience of, okay, we are not in a park anymore. We have been taken out. And then when you get it again, it's a little jarring. But in this sense, it seems pretty cool. The load station, immediately when I looked at it, I noticed two things. One, incredibly detailed. The pipes are incredible. The lighting in there is incredible. Like there's little like flashing lights, and just the way that they've lit this this load station is incredible. But one thing I also noticed, and it's something that you and I have talked about a lot, we discussed this area being a lot like the Men in Black load station. And in a sense it is, because there's those stairs coming down, but we didn't get the overhead view that we thought, or did we?
You'll notice that the camera has its back to what I think would be the entry into the load area. What we're seeing ahead would be like the stairs for the back, like the if you're going Men in Black and you're looking forward, there's like a little hallway, and above it is the child swap. I feel like we're missing the grand staircase behind that view.
Sure. And
we're getting better and more view of like the child swap or the backstage or the ADA area. So there might be a little bit of a sneak preview as you head down from the trophy room, but I don't think it's going to be as obvious as the Men in Black, where you have that big long walkway around the perimeter up above. It's just more like you can see it before you head down the stairs. Like, I don't think they want to show the other way, because the other way would show the starting line for the actual ride. They're showing us what the last part of the ride, which, by the way, if you look down, it looks like there's monitors or screens at the end of the ride there, coming into the load platform, which remind me of Toy Story Mania, where it shows the top scores for the day. So I'm hoping that's what that is there, something for the interactivity.
There are cars in multiple colors. The back, I don't know what it is on the back, but it's like that big circular light up.
The afterburner thing.
Yeah, the afterburner thing. Whatever it is, it makes me so happy because it looks so cool.
And it's like glowing, like it definitely has like a, you know that flames are going to shoot out of it when you get the mushroom or something.
The car feels like it has life. Like it feels like it's almost radiating.
Yeah, I mean, besides the fact that it has LED lighting all around it that's pulsing, just something about the way it's designed. It's very specific to this attraction, but also feels exactly like a Mario character. Like it feels like it belongs in a Mario Kart game. It's like Mario's main go-kart, but like slightly different. I noticed the wheels are sideways to give it that like modern Mario Kart 8 type of feel to it.
Yep.
Like it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. It's great to finally see it after all this time.
When I initially saw the layout of the seats, I thought I was going to see not necessarily a ride vehicle that looked identical to something I've seen before, but I just didn't think it would be incredibly different because it felt very Men in Black in the style of seating and how it's kind of orchestrated. But when I see it now in its full form and I see the entire ride vehicle, it's still, it has that similar seating structure, but just looking at it in its entirety, it looks like a ride vehicle that I haven't really seen before, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, it's like how the Hagrid coaster does a really good job of, taking a chassis and putting something on top of it that you've not necessarily seen before on a roller coaster, even though the bottom part's the same. And I think this is something that's probably very similar to Men in Black, but we're not seeing the bottom part. We're just seeing the top part. So it looks like it's a third shorter than it actually is, I think. Like, I think it keeps going a little bit, but we're on a raised platform, so we're not noticing that those are fake wheels and that underneath it is a spinning platform base on a track.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but immediately looking at the ride vehicle here, it looks like we have speakers in between the seats, on the outside of the seats, and then also next to the steering wheel.
I mean, there are speakers everywhere when you look at this thing. So I already imagine a lot of the Universal rides tend to do like a binaural audio type thing where they even have audio playing outside the ride vehicle, but then the voices are inside the ride vehicle. So you hear music that's all around you and the voices are right in front of you. But also I have to wonder if some of the ones in the front might be for like wind effects, like a Flight of Passage or something, to really create the sense of moving faster without having to do the secret fans like they have on Gringotts, which there's the very first part after the teeter-totter is in the dark and there is a ton of fans in that like corridor to make it feel like you're going 50 miles an hour. And I wonder, like, maybe they could fake it by just having fans right there on the thing in these speaker vents. But either way, like, can you imagine like a shell is flying at you and you hear it like come across your head because there's so many speakers, it's in surround sound.
Yeah, they're really going to be able to project that. I guess, I don't know if it's called 3D audio or whatever it's called, where it kind of, goes right to left. And that full surround effect should be in full force with not only the placement of the speakers, but what they're doing. But I think it's interesting that you mentioned that we could potentially see fans in front of the steering wheel, because you and I both, for the last year plus, talking about this attraction, have just been trying to stress the fact of, hey, it's going to feel like you're moving fast, but it's not necessarily going to be a fast ride as far as like physically what it's doing. So if that is true and that's what's going on behind the wheel, that is another way that they could be accomplishing this actually inside of the car and not just doing things outside of the car.
Yeah, I think a lot of people coming into this are like, if this is the first time they're hearing of the actual Mario Kart ride, now that everyone's covering it on the news, a lot of people are saying, is it like Radiator Springs Racers, or is it going to be fast, or like, well, I can't wait to see how fast this is. But this is an all ages ride, really, and it's not gonna. It's inside, and it's gonna cover a lot of ground. So to make it 5 minutes, which is what they say the actual ride length is, it's not going to be moving that fast. But they'll use a lot of tricks to try to make it feel like it is. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad that it's not moving that fast, because I appreciate a good dark ride.
You and I also had this discussion with Rise where I was kind of upset at the speed, but then you were telling me, you're like, it whipped me around enough, and I felt like it was moving at a pace that I was happy
with like something like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. If you got the turns just jarring enough, it doesn't matter how slow it's going.
That's true. If there's enough going on, visually, getting your senses going, the car is moving in directions. I mean, same like you look at something like Spider-Man 2, right? Like, that's not an incredibly fast ride, but you don't get off that ride feeling, shortchanged in any sense.
I go on Transformers, the ride, and like I still get fooled by the 4 feet that it moves forward. It moves forward short, 4 feet, but I feel like I'm driving down the street.
It's incredible what they can do, just pulling off some visual effects outside of the cart. And I think we've both fully expected that they're going to do that, along with augmented reality and some car controls that we're getting excited about. I'm looking at the steering wheel right now. I'm seeing really cool LEDs around this little Mario logo that they put in this specific car. But what I'm noticing under it is there seems to be a cord with a headset for augmented reality. We've seen the glasses. They've actually put up actual footage and pictures of the glass that we're going to be wearing. But I think it's interesting that there already is something corded and plugged inside the car. What's going on there?
Well, let's just take a moment to just appreciate the fact that the augmented reality glasses made it onto the ride, and that we've been talking about it for years, and it actually happened. If they had cut it and just pretended like it never happened, people might have thought I was crazy. Because I've been talking about this for literally 3 years now.
There was never a doubt, Alicia. The second you said it, we were all gunning for it.
So it's amazing to see it. It's amazing that it's shaped like a Mario hat. I never would have guessed that, but it makes so much sense.
Yep.
But yeah, it definitely feels to me that the glasses themselves, like the ones they give you when you're waiting in line, and there might be, I've talked about it before, there might be like a pre-show area, or at least like a part of the queue that's like a ready room, where they teach you how you're going to put on the goggles, which back then it was going to be like a big headset thing and very heavy and expensive. Like that line in Jurassic Park, are they heavy? That it's expensive. But it seems like from the pictures in the video that they figured out a way that you just take the actual glasses and you put it on your head, and it doesn't have the augmented reality, like the brain of it. And then when you sit in the car, you click in this little thing to the visor, and that actually is what projects the images onto the glasses themselves. So that's doing all the heavy lifting, and it's wired in, I guess, to the car. So there's no need for like Wi-Fi issues. When they were first working on it, I kept hearing that Microsoft HoloLens was what they were working with. And that might have been what they were practicing and getting it all fine-tuned with. Because originally, when they were first designing it, and we're talking 5 years ago, they were going to rely more heavily on the augmented reality and actually have set pieces and even characters that would be projected into the glasses. But it's, I guess through testing, they realized, let's just stick with it being the power-ups, the throwing of the shells, things like that. Maybe even some heads-up display, like so you can know what your score is. But they're realizing that they can't get the lining up of everything, because this is a moving ride. This isn't just you sitting in your living room playing a HoloLens game. So with a moving ride and your head moving side to side, they're keeping it simple. You collect an item, a special block on the ride, and you throw an item, and like that's all that needs to be projected. But so yeah, it definitely looks like the Mirror Prism, or some like special made version that looks like a Mario hat for it.
Right.
But all I know is I'm looking at it, I'm going, well, that looks a lot less heavy than what I was originally hearing. Because back in the day, it was like, it's a Microsoft HoloLens and it connects to a vest you have to put on that holds the battery and the whole computer apparatus. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like laser tag. You have to like put on straps and stuff.
I just think it's exciting because this does in a big way represent the next step in technology to be used in theme park attractions. We haven't had this yet in a big way. This is the first introduction in a major e-ticket attraction at one of the big parks. You look back down the years, maybe it was 3D at one point, and now we're at the point where it's actually augmented reality and putting things over real life. It's going to be exciting to see how that technology unfolds and where it goes over the next 10, 20, 30 years, and how, if it's something that's going to stay or if it's going to be something that is used just a few times and they decide this isn't working in a theme park.
I think a lot of people are concerned with Universal's recent track record, and they're like, wait a minute, isn't this just screens for your eyes? But when you really think about it, like, this is something to augment reality, and without actual reality to look at, there's nothing to augment. So this isn't going to be a replacement, at least not for this attraction. This isn't going to be a replacement for actual dark ride elements. And they even talked about it in the press release, where they did admit that there is some screen elements and projection mapping. They did say projection mapping. I've heard at least for the volcano scene, we got lava and stuff that's got to be projection mapped, but there may be more than that, especially for the speed, fake speed things. So like, I think that it's going to be a really good dark ride, even if you don't put the headset on. It's more or 100% just for the interactivity.
Throwing shells and steering How do you win? What's the ride system like? We know we're racing against, I guess, who's on the opposite side of the track. What is going on with this ride?
Everything.
Okay, good start.
I think, well, okay, I have notes. I have a sticky note here from 3 years ago that I'm finally going to throw in the garbage because I guess I don't need it anymore. But I have here Mario Kart dynamic attractions with track power feed, a bus bar RV system, 8 cars at load unload with 4 on the left and 4 on the right, unload on the outer sides. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't need these notes anymore because we've actually got proof of that. Although I don't know if it's dynamic attractions, but I do know that it is a bus bar system, which, is a powered track system where it's a ride vehicle that runs on a track. But there are rumors floating around right now that there are like parts or points of this ride where when the M lights up on your steering wheel, you actually have some bit of control. Which my first thought is, but wait a minute, there's 4 people in the car.
Right.
Like if I turn right and they turn left, do we split in half? But it might actually have something to do with keeping steady or keeping straight or keeping within a guideline. And if everyone in the car does a really good job, your car goes a little bit faster. And if you do really bad, your car goes a little slower. And the real point of winning is to beat the other car. You're always racing against one other car that launches at the same time as you, just like Men in Black Alien Attack. Instead of, trying to get a higher score than the other car, you're trying to get faster than the other car. If you were to get hit by a shell or run over a banana peel and you skid out, it does appear that there is the ability for the ride vehicles to actually rotate. I think there's probably 2 or 3 points in the ride where they'll spin no matter what. We've talked about it before, like flying up into the air or getting sucked into a whirlpool might be points in the ride where your car may spin. But if you hit a banana peel, you get hit by that blue shell. You could rotate or at least skid a little bit. And if you use the steering wheel in just the right way, you could drift around that corner and get a higher speed and do a little bit better than the car next to you. And that could be the difference between losing or winning.
I liked the light up M on the wheel. That was the first time I've heard that mentioned. The way you described it so far was a collaborative effort. Do you think there's ever going to be the opportunity where it's an individual light up?
Well, that makes sense too. That actually makes a lot of sense in why it lights up. Maybe you take turns. Like, okay, now it's my turn. I see it lighting up purple in front of me. And then the person next to me is like, it lights up red. And whenever you see the red light, it's because everyone gets their own light. Might as well. Yeah, right. Okay. That makes more sense.
Because I initially started thinking of something like Mission Space, where it's like, okay, you're up, you're up, you're up. I was kind of thinking that mentality. But yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, it could definitely be a collaborative effort, but I would be interested to see if it's just going to, when your specific wheel lights up, you're up.
And that does make a lot of sense because there are like 4 main track areas besides the intro and outro to the ride. And maybe those in individual tracks, it's like, oh, it's my turn to drive on this track. And then like it'll be your turn to drive on that one. And then like that's the full cup series is essentially taking turns on who's in the driver's seat. But we're all throwing shells.
One thing about the tracks though, and I'm looking at the promo art here, they show us a lot of the tracks that I guess we should be expecting on this ride. One thing I love, we are seeing Rainbow Road. And then of course, from our videos talking about the stages, you nailed, I think, everything that's in this promo art. So again, well done.
Thank you. It just makes me happy that because the things that I've heard are so impressive, and knowing that they stuck with it, and like it's rare in theme parks to see something go from concept to completion and be as good, if not better, than originally was planned. Like that's very rare. And as far as like the throwing shells, if you do look at the steering wheel, there are buttons on the top left and right of the steering wheel. So I guess aiming would be where you're looking with your, because your augmented reality will be, kind of gyroscope and move with you. So if you're looking one way and press a button, that's your way of launching it. I know all the like promo video and art and posters always show someone throwing it with their arm.
Yeah, there's physical throws there. Oh yeah.
But they're not measuring your arm movements. This isn't the Spider-Man ride opening someday at Marvel or Avengers
That's
campus.
Unfortunate. I was actually looking forward to kind of winding up and just throwing something down the track.
Which I'm fine with because I'm not the best thrower.
Okay.
I think I'd be much better if I just aim with my face and then press a button. I think I might do a better job of actually hitting something. But yeah, you can see, it's great to see that steering wheel because you can see the 2 buttons on there. And I think that's what they're going to be for.
They love throwing the power-up bands on these piece of promo art too. Do you think there's going to be any advantage to having one on this ride?
I don't know. They haven't mentioned it at all. And they definitely said, I think someone asked a question a few months back, and you don't need the power-up bands to do the interactivity on the rides. So the power-up bands seem to specifically be for the stuff around the actual land itself. And there's extra, stuff like the boss battle with Bowser Jr., and you have to earn 3 keys to even get to that level. So it's almost like playing a whole video game in the land, and paying the $30, which is the price, by the way. It's 3,200 yen, about 31-ish US dollars, tax included. That fee is essentially paying for the right to play a real life video game around the land. That's like a bonus attraction that you wouldn't get if you didn't pay that money. But you don't need to pay the money to actually do the rides. I'm hoping that it stores like your score, or it stores like how many times you've won, because even the Datapad app in for the Millennium Falcon ride will keep your score. Like it adds the credits to your score.
Right.
So like at the very least, that's what I'm hoping for integration on Mario Kart, is that I want to see kind of my past runs and how good
Let's go to Yoshi though. What's going on with the Yoshi attraction that people aren't thinking or considering so far?
We haven't heard much, like, because it's the most obvious. Like, we could see it. We saw it getting built. It's outside for the most part, except for one inside scene. We could see that we sit inside. They want to say sit on top of, but you sit inside a Yoshi and you go around in an Omnimover circle. They also say this ride's about 5 minutes long. I don't believe them, but they say it is. And it looks cute. There's a bunch of animatronics, but with this press release, it does sound like it's more interactive than we probably were thinking. I've always heard that it's interactive. I just don't know how. I'm sitting here like, is it like have a lever like the Dumbo ride and like a tongue sticks out and you eat something? I don't know. But in the press release, it does say that you're following Captain Toad on a treasure hunting adventure. And Captain Toad has forgotten his treasure map, and they need to find 3 colored eggs that lead the way to the golden egg. And then you win or whatever. So it sounds to me like a story, like a way to set up a story for a kid's ride. But at the same time, is there a way to collect the 3 colored eggs and then a way also to lose? Like, that's what I wonder. Like, it's always going to end in the same spot, but is there a way to get higher score if you actually get all the eggs somehow? And that would make it interactive. So I'm intrigued by the description. And it could just be a whimsical description. It may not be actually interactive, but it sounds interactive.
That's a tough thing sometimes with these attraction descriptions, is going off the descriptions alone. Sometimes they like to get excited in how they're describing what's going on.
I think Nintendo wanted all the attractions to somehow be interactive. And then when it comes to something like the Phase 2 expansion for Donkey Kong Minecart Coaster, instead of the ride itself being interactive, the queue will be interactive. And there'll be like AI talking characters that you can talk to while you're waiting in line. And then you'll see them again on the ride. It'd be great if they remember you. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
So there's still some interactivity. And I've heard that there's interactivity in the Yoshi queue itself. So whether or not the ride is, it still feels like this land is... I've been calling it the most interactive theme park land ever. And I really think it will be, because even Potter, doesn't keep your score, and the rides aren't interactive. And then something like Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge, you can keep score, and it is more interactive. But then the rides are like, one of the rides very passive, and the other one, all it does is add credits to your score. It's not really... it doesn't matter to your reputation the way that they said it would. So this is something very different. Like, and there's even rumors like where you can go home and, you'll have the app, so you'll be able to see what your score is and actually where you rank against other people. And then I remember the president talking in an earnings call saying you could even check on your Switch. So I don't know if they're gonna keep that up. But the press release does say there'll be checkpoints throughout the land that you can check to see how many badges you have, keys, and your coin score and things. So you don't actually need to use the app. You can use the power-up band and just check at a kiosk.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, see, so everything that you're mentioning, when we go back to Galaxy's Edge, and like they made an attempt at doing something similar to this, but that almost feels like the rudimentary, like, first attempt. And it almost feels like Universal's coming in now and taking it a step further and saying, hey, this is how it actually could be. And then maybe down the line we'll look at this and it'll be taken another step further. But this definitely feels like the next step up. So that's exciting.
As far as like Galaxy's Edge, I honestly would have preferred it be a $50 data pad I'd have to buy. Like, I feel like without that element, it's just another thing on my phone to take up 300 megabytes. I just don't care. Like, I like it while I'm in the land, but then it's not also a souvenir. And I think that's missing that connection that you get from a wand or this power-up band, or maybe one day a Pokedex. You know, I want to go and collect all the Pokemon with a
playing
little,
with my heart. Stop that right now.
Fold open Pokedex. I feel like that's the ultimate goal in my brain is like, that's where we're heading, where it mixes together the data pad concept, the wand, the power up. It's all combined into this like Pokemon discovery tool. Oh, it'd be so cool.
Are we listening, creative? Are we listening?
One day.
Let's talk about how we're getting in. So there's reservations required, huh?
That's what it sounds like. Yeah. It's there's you can actually pre-book. When you buy your ticket, there's a way to purchase like an express pass that comes with a timed entry into the land. So you know you're going to get a guaranteed entry into Super Nintendo World. And I think that's going to be your best bet. Also, I think travel agents are going to be selling ticket packages that come with a timed entry. They will be doing free ones like the day of your visit when you get there. But we're talking like virtual queue for Hagrid, you know, wake up as early as you can and hope you can get in, or boarding group for Rise of Resistance and there's no hope for you whatsoever. So if possible, I would definitely pre-book this and get your timed entry before you even go. But you should be able to at least try to get one the day of, the morning of, through the app.
Quick community questions. I know you took a few down. One of them was Toad's Cafe menu?
If you zoom in on the main image, you can kind of see a menu, and I almost want to say I can tell what it is, but I can't. And who knows? And you know what? The Japanese tastes in the theme parks are always going to be different than what we get here. So don't take it as an indication of what we're going to get. But I imagine it's going to be adorable if the little cafe is anything to indicate.
So you would expect a different menu at our parks?
Yeah, I would expect some concepts to remain the same, some broad strokes. But for the most part, yeah, I think the foods are going to be like if there was a butterbeer type thing, I expect that in all the versions of, you know, Harry Potter. But then the actual foods may differ.
We mentioned it already in this podcast, but no official mention of the Phase 2 expansion of Donkey Kong. What are the odds?
Absolutely no mention of that whatsoever. And I think that they might be playing the cards close to the chest on that one because they're not sure on when that they may be working on that in like super slow motion, because they're not going to want to open another thing until they have full capacity and really can, you know, promote it and get some travel from tourists across the sea.
I'm going to say one last thing. I'm looking at the official images now that have come out from inside the land, and I think this is one of the first times ever that I've looked at something and I said, I think this looks better than the concept rendering. Like it almost, the real photo of the land looks like the concept rendering.
Yeah, I look at when I was groggy and I woke up and I rolled over and I opened Twitter and I'm like, what? That's a really good concept art. And I zoom in and I zoom in and I zoom in and I'm like, oh, the shadows look so real. Wait a minute. I had to run to my computer. I'm like, that is a photo? The color looks so beautifully perfect.
Yep.
Absolutely perfect. It not only does it match the concept art, like we saw like early concept art that was like a flat drawing, and then we saw the next level of concept art and the color is a little funky, and then we saw this beautifully rendered concept art, it's the one we've seen the most, and I'm like, wow, this land's gonna be beautiful. Then we see the real thing and I'm like, this concept art keeps getting better.
Yeah. The only thing that even gave it away on this one is I finally saw some bushes and I was like, that's the only thing that looks like real life in this photo.
Yeah, there's actually some real plants hiding in there. And I notice on all the lamps, they look like normal street lamps, but if you like zoom in, you'll notice little real lights around it. So there's actually spotlights hiding in all the street lamps.
Yeah.
Like that makes so it cool. A little more real. Like, I just can't wait.
All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap up today's episode. If you guys want to catch more of Alicia Stella, she has the Theme Park Stop on YouTube. She has the Park Stop podcast as well. And she is Alicia Stella on Twitter. If you guys are looking for more from the Theme Park Shark, you can find our podcast on Apple and Spotify. We are at themeparkshark.com, and of course, the Theme Park Shark on YouTube. But all right, guys, that's going to wrap up today's episode of Shark Stop. As always, I appreciate you guys being here and for listening and or watching. Take care, have a great day, and we'll see you guys in the next one.